Welcome back. Today we have a New York Yankees 2022 season preview with somebody that I trust very much for Yankees knowledge. You can find him on Instagram, Bronx Bombers with two S's on the end. My friend Andrew, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. I'm doing great. Back to be good to be back on the show here or
Oh
on the
yeah.
on the channel.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a while since probably around football season when it ended, January.
Yep.
But yeah, so obviously we're both Yankee fans. You are a very big Yankee fan. I don't think you miss many innings at all, if any. So you obviously do a lot of work here. But we're gonna talk about this season. The Yankees are projected 92 wins, and we're coming off a decade of no World Series appearances. That was the first time in Yankee history that happened. And of course, Brian Cashman said, well, maybe in 2017, if what happened with the Astros didn't happen, maybe they would have made it, but that's in the past. So anyway, hopefully better things happen this time around. But anyway, let's start off with the 92 win total. I mean, do you think it's going to be an over or under for the Yankees with 92 wins?
It's hard to say. I think right now I would say the over, and the only reason I would say that is what scares me is teams around them have gotten better. Like the Blue Jays directly in their division got better. The Rays maybe got a little worse, but they always figure it out, so they'll be good. The Red Sox, I think, are probably worse than the Yankees, but I do think the Yankees are better than they were last year. And last year they were a 92-win team. And I think with a healthy overall lineup, which is it's not easy to ask for, especially with guys like Judge, Stanton, Donaldson now in the lineup. I think
Aaron
they get over
Hicks.
that 90. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think they do get over that 92 win mark.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. It is a tough division, though. I mean, outside of the Orioles, obviously, and you look at the Blue
Yeah.
Jays, who, yes, lost Robbie Ray, but they had Kevin Gausman, so that's going to help. But just looking at some of the other parts of this team, and obviously the health's a big issue. There are guys that miss a ton of time, but I look at this lineup up and down, and I'm very confident that this Yankee lineup is going to be very good. Now, we talked about this briefly for a second before we started recording. What do you think happens with the infield? Because you're going to have Donaldson at third, Kiner Falefa shortstop, probably Torres at second, Rizzo at first. What the hell happens with DJ LeMahieu? Like, who's going to play more, and how do you expect this whole rotation to go down?
Yeah, it's really interesting when you get down to it because Kiner Falefa is the shortstop. He's not gonna be a utility player off the bench kind of guy. They want him to play shortstop. They don't want Glaber at shortstop. So does that mean Glaber goes over to second? Does that mean LeMahieu goes over to second? There is kind of that void that I thought they were going to fix before the season started. I thought maybe they were going to trade and most likely Torres for a pitcher by now, but they didn't do it. They're sticking with him, and both of them, respectively, are having decent spring training seasons so far. So I don't know where it lands right away. I would assume DJ LeMahieu is the starting second baseman on opening day, and I expect them to probably split time for the month of April.
Yes, I guess you have to do that. I mean, there's only so many positions,
Yeah.
obviously, but just yeah, based on how Torres is playing in the spring, and it looks like he's in better shape now, in best shape in a while. I do want to see him play every day and get the opportunity, but you're also not going to bench LeMahieu, who you paid a bunch of money to a couple years ago. So that's a tough
Yep.
situation. I want to talk about the new guys, Donaldson, Kiner Falefa. Donaldson, of course, has had injuries in the past, calf issues specifically, but when he plays, he still plays at a high level. A couple years ago with the Braves, he played very well, and I think last year he played pretty well. So how do you think his season will go? I think there is some of that, like the Yankees need a guy like that, his fire, his energy, that attitude. I think this team needs that for sure. Sure, he comes along with some strikeouts, but he'll hit you maybe 30 home runs if he stays healthy. But what do you expect Donaldson to bring to the Yankees this year?
What I really liked about the Donaldson move and Donaldson as a player is, yeah, he is a higher strikeout guy, but he's still under that league average, which for a power hitter like him, I mean, that's surprising. You have a ton of Yankees that are over that strikeout mark, and you got rid of a ton that were over that strikeout mark. Gio Urshela was over that mark last year. Luke Voigt, Gary Sanchez, three players that are all right side hitters that strike out a lot. And yeah, Donaldson is that same right side hitter, but I think you eliminated a lot of strikeouts and you brought in two guys in Falefa and Donaldson that are really, really good at putting the ball in play. And Donaldson might have that rub off of regression. I mean, as time goes on, that usually happens with players. He's in his 36-year-old season. But last year, he hit 26 bombs. I mean, he got on base at 350. He still played really, really well, an OPS of 827. So I do feel like there is going to be regression, but man, I mean, he's going to be like in the 5 hole all year long. If he's hitting even close to those numbers, I mean, that's pretty strong from your number 5 guy.
Yeah, I do think they got better. Like, I think Donaldson's a better baseball player than Gio
Yeah.
Urshela. No disrespect to him. But there's also the rumor, and I think they may have done this in spring training. You'd probably know. But is there a chance Donaldson leads off against lefties this year?
Very much so, yeah. And I think they were really trying to experiment with that in spring training, like you said. We didn't see LeMahieu at the top of the lineup a ton this year. We saw more Rizzo and Donaldson. Yeah, I think it's a real possibility Donaldson would lead off against lefties, yeah.
That'd be interesting. Yeah. All right. So the outfield formation, I guess. Left field, you're gonna have Joey
Yep,
Gallo most times. Aaron Hicks in center. Judge and right. Stentinger most time DH. Right. That's pretty much how it's gonna go.
yep.
All right.
Yeah. I would assume so, but I would say maybe a fourth of the season is going to be Stanton in the outfield. I think he was even surprised at how well he held up out there last year, and his play offensively responded. Like he was really, really good when he played the field at the plate. So I think they try and get him there as much as they can, but as long as Aaron Hicks is on the field, he's going to be the go-to option in that centerpiece in the outfield.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the catcher position, of course, moving off Gary Sanchez,
Yep.
I don't want to spend too much time on that. I think it kind of had to happen. But Kyle Higashioka, Rob Brantley, and some guy I've never heard of. Who the hell's Ben? What is it? Rodvet? I mean,
Rorkvet, yeah.
who is this guy? Who's going to play most games of catcher this year?
So for the month of April, it's going to be Higgy because Rorkvet came over in the Donaldson trade and he has an oblique injury. So he's going to start the year off on the IL. That's what we assume. So it's going to be Higgy right off the bat, which if you've been following spring training, Higgy's having a tremendous spring, hit his 5th home run today. So that is okay. Obviously, those numbers are going to go down. Higgy is just not that great of an offensive player. But Rorkvet, it was one of those guys that even I think the Mets were trying to trade for last year at the deadline. He is a defensive phenom, which is a total turnaround from what they traded to the Twins. So if they can get some type of defensive value, I mean, you'll have 2 catchers in Higgy and Rorkvet that aren't letting balls go by them, and that's pretty nice.
Yeah, you're definitely getting a big improvement defensively. I don't know about offensively, but I think Gary Sanchez is kind of what the Yankees have to get away from, all or nothing
Yeah.
type guys, and they have enough of that. That's kind of why I like the Kiner Falefa addition. I mean, he puts more speed on the base pass, but also brings some more contact. So we'll talk about him more later. Actually, he's part of the over/unders, which we'll do when we get to that. But anyway,
Nice.
I wanted to ask about a guy who I believe was signed to a minor leagues deal, but Marwin Gonzalez. Do you think he makes the team because he can play just about any position? Is he a switch hitter? I know he bats lefty. Is he a righty too?
No,
I
I think he's a lefty. I don't know if
Okay.
he's a switch. I would
I'll
like him a
look
lot
that
more
up.
if he was a
But
switch.
talk about him. I'll look it up real quick. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I think Marwin Gonzalez makes the roster, which obviously going into spring, I don't think many people thought that was a chance. But I mean, he showed up and he's hit, and he provides a really good utility type player off the bench for the Yankees. When you think about it, he can play all over the field, outfield, infield, and he's that lefty bat, maybe switch hitter bat that can provide some balance to the lineup at times. And I kind of see this now, just looking over the roster. They have guys like they have extreme depth on the team now in the outfield and the infield. With Marwin Gonzalez, if he makes the team, he's going to provide so much depth to the outfield and infield. We mentioned extra guys like LeMahieu could be that extra guy. Torres could be that extra guy. Stanton's that extra guy in the outfield. They have a ton of depth. And I think they are prepared that in case anybody gets injured in the infield, like they have guys like Gonzalez, Torres, and Stanton that could step right in.
Yeah, he actually is a switch hitter. I just looked it up. So memory serves
Perfect.
correct there. All right. I want to ask about the young guys, Volpe, and I think it's also
Mm-hmm.
Oswaldo Cabrera. Is that it? No, who's the other?
Peraza.
Peraza. Okay. I mean,
Oswald Peraza,
there's a
yeah.
Cabrera too.
There's a
Anyway.
different guy. Yeah.
All right. So when do you expect to see these guys in the majors? Because of course, like we went into this offseason and I thought for sure the Yankees were gonna sign one of Marcus Semien, Trevor Story, and your boy Carlos Correa. They do not, even Andrelton Simmons. They don't sign any of those
Yeah.
guys. So I think the Yankees are having more of a forward-thinking approach and expecting one of these guys, most likely Volpe, because he gets most of the hype. But when do you expect to see any of those guys this season? Maybe by June or late April? What are you expecting?
I wouldn't expect Volpe this year. I think Volpe's too young. He's still got to climb up in the minors a little bit. I think for you and I, it's going to be nice. I think he's going to be in Somerset most of the year, so that's a quick drive for us to go see him
Yes,
play.
sir.
I think Peraza could actually strike the team at some point this season. I don't know how likely it is. He's definitely more likely than Volpe, but he's a really, really good fielder, a much better fielder than Volpe. And he doesn't hit as well as Volpe, at least in the minor leagues, but he's still a really, really good hitter. And I think going off what you said, we all expected them to sign a big shortstop, but stopgap shortstop was a possibility, and that's what you get in Kiner Falefa. But, I mean, when you take on Donaldson's contract and you take that money away from the Twins in that trade, and then you see Correa signed for 3 years with opt-outs every single year, he could have served as that stopgap shortstop for a year or two. So I do think there's a little frustration with that, but overall, they didn't want somebody in the way of those two young guys who they think are going to be some really, really good superstar players.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really want Correa. I think you know that. Of course, he's talented as hell, but he's also had some injuries, and I just don't know how that personality and his history would mesh with everybody else. All right, so I think hitting wise, like let's say out of 100, what is your confidence with the Yankees offense this year? Because I'm somewhere in the 90s. I feel very good about it.
Yeah, I think they really, really, really improved. I think they're way more balanced than they have been in the past. I mean, you have a guy in Joey Gallo that not a lot of Yankee fans like, but you got to realize that he's going to hit 200. I've accepted that, but he's going to hit somewhere close to 40 home runs in the 6-hole. Like, that's a lot of power. They have a really, really powerful lineup, and I feel like it's less streaky this year than in years past, or it's going to be less streaky because they added guys like Kiner Falefa that could put the ball in play, and DJ LeMahieu is going to be mixed in there somewhere in that lineup. Even Torres is a kind of low strikeout guy. So I think they have enough low strikeout ball and play guys that you're not going to see them be as streaky as they are in the past.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I want to talk about the part of this team that I am concerned about, and that's the starting pitching. I think most Yankee fans kind of feel the same way. There's some people that are optimistic about it, but you have your guy in Garrett Cole, who we're not going to spend much time on. I mean, we'll see how he balances back, and there's a whole spider tack thing. I'm not too concerned about it, honestly. But anyway, after that, though, it's a little murky with Jordan Montgomery. Luis Severino, I think, got, shut down maybe for a few days with his issues, and it just always seems like something's happening with him. Jamison Tyone and Nestor Cortez. I don't feel confident about anybody else on this team. Montgomery's had his moments, of course. I think Tyone's fine when he's healthy, but, that's another guy who gets hurt. And Luis Severino hasn't pitched a full season, and God knows when. So, what are your expectations and your concern level with the starting rotation?
There's certainly a drop off after Cole. That's for sure. I think you get consistent play out of Montgomery. Montgomery has been like a pretty good high 3 ERA guy, which that's not bad to have in the rotation, but he's definitely not a 2. So I think they expect Luis Severino to be that 2. Luis Severino is going to start tomorrow, I believe, in spring training. So they want to get him at least 60 or 70 pitches, I thought I read. So he is not on the injured side as of now. There was a little scare, but you're right. I mean, he hasn't made it through a season in a long time. Last year, he made it through the back end of the season just in the bullpen. So it'll be exciting to see how he pitches, because if he can get back to anywhere close to his normal self, I mean, he is a number 2 starter, if not number 1 on most teams. But I don't think we can expect that from him. I really just want to see how they go along with it. And I do believe the Yankees, if they have that hole at the trade deadline, they're going to make a move for a guy, or maybe even before the trade deadline, with guys like Montas and Sean Manaea in Oakland waiting to be traded.
Maybe Luis Castillo. I mean, that's an option, right? I mean,
yeah,
it certainly is. They always rumor his name, so maybe. I'm looking at it now. I forgot about this guy even existing, but this is the bullpen now. Zach Britton's on the IL. What's going on with him? Is he coming back this year?
I think Zach Britton's like an end of the year kind of guy. He had late Tommy John, I'm pretty sure, but the bullpen's still really, really solid even without Britton.
Yeah, let's look at that right now. So, of course, Chapman's going to be your closer. Loaizaga is going to be your high leverage or 8th inning guy. Of course, you love him, and I see why. Chad Green's kind of just you put him in there, long relief or even 7th innings. I mean, who else do you Wandy Peralta has a role, of course. Who else do you expect to have a pretty decent sized role that I might be forgetting about right now?
Clay Holmes. I think he's going to be the guy this year, right behind. I think the top 2 guys are really going to be Loaizaga and Holmes. I think there's a possibility that outside of April, maybe they start in April like this, but outside of April, I think Chapman is gone in the closer position. That might be a little hot take, but I think you could see Chapman as a 7th or 8th inning type of guy. I mean, Loaizaga is just straight heat out of the bullpen that could easily take over that closing role in my opinion. And I think Clay Holmes is just as good. He's got Really, really good stuff. The highest ground ball percentage of any pitcher in the major leagues. They snagged him from Pittsburgh last year, have him 3 years under control. I mean, he is in such a good position right now. Wandy Peralta, Joely Rodriguez even providing some lefty stuff. I just think the bullpen is really like the best outside of the offense is the best part of this team, and they're a top dog in the league.
I agree. Yeah, for sure. All right. Do you expect anything from Devi Garcia, Luis Heel, right? Eel, however you pronounce it. Do you expect anything from
Luis
those guys
Eel,
this year? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Luis Eel is going to form into at least the fifth starter by the end of the year. And he's been throwing gas in spring training, upper 90s. Even Davy Garcia started to bounce back. He had a really, really rough year last year. But I think Matt Blake, the Yankees pitching coach, was really starting to turn these guys around. Even Michael King had some nice stuff going this year. I mean, he's gotten beat up a couple times in spring training, but stuff-wise, he's got some nice movement. But I don't know about Davy Garcia. That's a bit of a question mark. But I think Luis Eel is definitely gonna start on the roster this year. I would assume.
Yeah, it just feels like something has to happen with that fifth spot. Obviously something's going to change. You're not going to have the same 5 guys the entire MLB season, but I don't know. I do think they probably trade for somebody. Who that is, we'll find out. Could be one of those Oakland A guys, as you mentioned before. Let's do some over-unders. I made some up in my head here. I think they're decent numbers. So this would be a career high for him, but Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, 20.5 steals over-under.
Wow.
He had 20 last year, so
20.5. I'm going to go, man, this is a tough one because I do think the Yankees are going to try and make him steal more bases than he did last year, but he played like 158 games last year, and I don't think he's going to appear in that many because I think over time he might develop into kind of maybe a utility guy. I don't know. I'll go over just because I don't see anybody else in that lineup with the ability to steal bases like him. So I really think they're going to try and push it with him. Although LeCastro is going to come off the bench and he's a quick, what, so it might be that guy.
I was going to bring him up actually. He's probably going to be your 4th, 5th outfielder, just like an 8th inning, 9th inning pinch runner type guy. That's fine. I mean,
for sure, especially with that rule in place again this year in extra innings, man on second, you gotta filter him in sometimes.
That's actually very true. Good point. Joey Gallo, 180.5 strikeouts.
Wow. Hold on. I got to look up what he had last year because I don't even know what to compare it to. I'm not like obsessing over
I think
he had like 200, no?
Yeah.
No way he had 200.
He had at one point in his career with Texas.
Okay. He had 213 last year. Okay. So I'm going to say I'm going to say over. And the only reason I say over is because there's a difference between Joey Gallo in New York and Joey Gallo in Texas. Joey Gallo in Texas was the guy to pitch around. You get beyond Joey Gallo, there's not many guys in Texas, at least when he was playing there. Right now they got some guys, that were really hitting that well. But when you have Josh Donaldson, Stanton, Judge around him, they're going to pitch to Gallo. And I do think he strikes out a ton this year.
Yeah. Do you think – I was going to ask about the order. Do you think it's going to be most times Gallo 2 and then Judge 3, Stanton 4 most likely?
I don't. I think it's going to be – I think it's going to be Rizzo 2. I think this is what – who do they play opening day? Okay, they play Eovaldi.
Red Sox. Oh, Eovaldi.
Okay, so it's going to be Eovaldi. So I think it's going to be – I think they're going to start Josh Donaldson, Rizzo, Judge, Stanton, Gallo, LeMahieu,
where's Donaldson?
Hicks. Donaldson's at the top.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hicks at the 7. Kiner-Falefa at the 8. Higgy at the 9. Maybe Kiner and Falefa Higgy switch at the 8. But who cares? I think that's what it's going to be. I think that's what. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I know they like Gallows on base and all that, but yeah, it's definitely going to change throughout the year. It's very hard to replicate the same lineup over and over again. All right. Last year, I believe he had 16 wins to lead the Yankees. Garrett Cole, 16.5 wins over under. I would pick under personally, but what do you say?
They just, for some reason, whenever a pitcher is just having a great game, the Yankees just don't want to score runs and give that support. I'm gonna go over because I feel like there were a lot of games last year where Garrett Cole was was shaky after the whole situation and really didn't have it. He has a whole offseason now to really focus on pitching without the sticky stuff, or maybe sneak the sticky stuff. I don't know what he plans on doing. I think I'm going to go over. Yeah, because I think the run support this year is going to be better than it was last year.
Yeah, no, it's actually not a bad thing to say. I mean, I could definitely agree with that. Of course, health is the biggest thing with that. All right, so this one
Right.
you kind of tipped your hand,
3 overs.
tipped your pitch, I guess you can say. I think you're going under here for sure.
Okay.
Aroldis Chapman, 32 and a half saves. I think that's
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I'll go under. I think they're going to be trying to identify that closer spot all year long. I think it's going to bounce around from a lot of different guys.
so
Unless if Chapman can like solidify himself as the closer in April, like he could be the May and June guy, but he doesn't have he has those streaks where he's really good, but the streaks that he's bad seem longer.
that is true. Yeah, I mean, so, all right. So you're saying for fantasy baseball, don't draft Chapman in our draft on Sunday?
Yes, I would stay away from a save standpoint. I'd say stay away from the Yankee bullpen because I don't think there's a guy getting like a good amount of saves in that bullpen.
That's not what you want to hear. All right.
But John Loizaga is getting drafted by me.
No surprise. All right. So DJ LeMahieu, we talked about his playing time and all that, but I have DJ LeMahieu over under 300 batting average this year.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the over. I really like what I see from DJ LeMahieu this year. He's got the power back, it seems, in spring training at least, and that was what was really missing last year. Maybe it's something with the balls. Maybe it's something with him. I think if he gets that power back, he will get over that 300 mark, and especially if he's hitting in like the 6 hole. I mean, he's going to have guys on base, which he's really good at hitting with guys on base. He's not going to get up as much, so he might not have as many at-bats because he's going to be down and lower in the lineup, which means more hits, less at-bats. I don't know. I'm going to say over 300. Yep.
It seemed like way too many ground balls for him last year. Hopefully there's more emphasis on elevating, but we'll see what happens there. All right, we'll end off with my boy here, Aaron Hicks, 117 and a half games played this year, over under.
Wow. It's so tough.
Yeah.
Man,
you know what I'm saying?
I could really see him playing like 120 games realistically. He lost some weight. He looks like he's in better shape. But I'm going to go with under. The injuries just seem like too much for him. It happens every single year. I'll go under, but I think he does get right around that mark. I think it's a really good number.
It is I mean, if he can get to 120, I guess like I'm fine with that. That's majority, I guess, of the season, but like it's just hard to trust it at this point. All right, you mentioned this briefly. We'll kind of end with this, but the playing at Toronto thing, there has been rumors about some Yankee players not being vaccinated. Do you expect any issues with that? Because, of course, the Yankees are going to be at Toronto quite a few times. How many times do they go to Toronto? Like 3 times a year? Yeah. So what do you expect with that situation?
I can't say for sure who's vaccinated and who's not. I know Anthony Rizzo is unvaccinated, at least based off of last year. He could have got vaccinated in the offseason. I don't know. But I do think the Yankees are going to run into some problems in Toronto, at least in the beginning of the season, because I do think I have worries that there are some guys there that, they don't like talking about the vaccine stuff. Does that mean they're not vaccinated? I'm not sure. Hopefully it's not a problem because Toronto is a huge threat this year, and giving away guys, like big guys in the lineup against a team like that is not good. So, I don't know for sure, but I do think early on, at least, they're going to run into some problems.
Now, just to clarify, Toronto Blue Jay players, they can't play either if they're unvaccinated, right?
They cannot.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I think that's a very fair way to do it. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully they don't run into that problem. But to think that every MLB team's not going to have at least one unvaccinated guy is just not realistic. So
that's I think the Yankees, as weird as it might sound, and maybe it's crazy, they might try and hide who's unvaccinated and who's not. Give maybe a player a little IL stint before the road trip to kind of hide, what's going on. But I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's going to be a crappy situation either way. All right, so we are pretty much, it's a Yankee fan thing, championship or bust. I mean, do you expect to win the championship this year? I don't personally, but do you expect it as a fan or not?
I'm not like a expect championship failure type of guy. Like, I don't know if I'm definitely in the minority for at least Yankees Twitter in that sense, but I don't feel like it's a failure because putting a winning product on the field every single year, like there's something to that. Like not every team, despite how much money teams spend, have been able to do that. I mean, you go right to the Mets. They've been spending money for a long time and they haven't been able to consistently get to the playoffs year in and year out. So there is something to it. This year, as opposed to other years, I'm going to be honest, I don't feel as confident in this team's ability to win a championship. Even though I thought they got better, I just think the teams around them in their division really, really stepped it up this year, and it's going to be hard. They did add an extra playoff spot, so could the Yankees, use that to their advantage this year? I don't know. I don't think they win the division, so I'm not going to give them the World Series expectation, but I hope they go and surprise people. The aspect that I like about the season is their expectations have been lowered. So maybe that helps them. Maybe it takes the pressure off of them a little bit. They go out there and they perform really, really well. So let's just hope for that.
True. And that's how it is for me. You mentioned it, how the teams around them in the division got a lot better. Like in the past, we wouldn't have to worry about the Orioles or the Blue Jays. And like now it's like, oh, the Blue Jays are kind of good. The Orioles still suck. But like the Blue Jays are actually like kind of competitive now. I think they're projected 91 wins this year, which is one below us. So that's a team to worry about now. Of course, Boston, they signed Story. They're going to do their thing. They get Chris Sale back, I think early May now, I just heard. So they should be fine as well. So it's going to be a tricky situation in that AL East this year, but we'll see how it goes and hopefully the best happens. But once again, follow Andrew on Instagram, bronxbomberss, 2 S's at the end, puts up great content over there. Appreciate you joining me, buddy. Maybe we'll do another Yankees video at some point throughout the season if something big happens, but always love having you on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you inviting me. Yankees World Series a celebration video. That's coming in October. Yeah, that'll be the next one.
It's a long ways away, but hopefully we'll get there. All right, I'm going to close it out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll talk to you next time.